Welcome to the New Take Media podcast, a place where we delve into the secret sauce of creator success. Today we have a comic creator named Vinnie Tartamella. He's created things like City of Venus, Shadow of the Kraken, and Through the Woods. He was also the lead designer of McFarlane Toys at one point, so we have a pretty good interview today. Enjoy. All right, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm pretty good. How you been?
I've been great, It's just, I guess you could say, grinding,
Yeah,
Yeah,
aren't we all?
yeah, exactly. So how did you get into comics? I mean, you're an artist, right? How'd you get into art and all of that
Yeah.
jazz? What was your origin story?
Well, straight out of high school, I started working for Todd McFarlane. I used to go to I only went to a handful of conventions at the time. There weren't a ton of them. But I actually, before that happened, I got to meet Stan Lee. That was pretty cool. I think it was like a junior in high school. And I showed him my work. It was around the time that he was having some legal battles with Marvel. And he's like, he took the time. He looked at all my work. He had a long line from where he was. It wasn't even a convention. He was at this art museum, and they had a new exhibit that they opened up, and he was talking about, the new Spider-Man movie and all that. And then he had like a little signing afterwards. But so sort of cut the line. Everyone seemed to be cool with it because I didn't have anything to sign. And yeah, so he's like, oh, kid, your work is great. But he leans over and he goes, go to the other guys. I said, what? He's like, yeah, Marvel's not doing so great. And yeah, you got a lot of talent. I think you'd be better over there because they might even be closing shop. Like, he gave me a tip off. I was like, holy hell.
Wow, that's crazy.
And it almost happened. They fell off the stock market. There was talks about them selling off their characters. There's a lot of stuff that was going on back then. But yeah, I kept collecting comics and I was enjoying all that type of stuff. I met Todd around the same time as well at a convention, and he had just started his toy company. So no, it was a little bit earlier than that. I met Todd first, then I met Stan. But at the time, like Movie Maniacs, I don't know if you remember those figures. It was like the essentially those movie characters like the Crow and Ash from Army of Darkness and all that. They were making those figures, and they were selling out everywhere. And in the back of one of the Spawn comic books, they were actually looking for artists for his company. And my brother and we decided to contact them. We filmed some stuff because my other brother, he worked on statues and stuff like that. So we filmed some of that and then some of my artwork and sent them in a tape. And we figured, like, I don't think anyone was getting that back then. It was just like, here's photos of my work or whatever. But yeah, we got called up to do an interview and never went back. We got pretty much hired on the spot. So yeah, it was a very crazy time. I was commuting like maybe 6 hours a day, like 3 hours going and coming because we stayed with some family in New York, but they were located in a really shitty area in Jersey. That's why I always throw jokes at Jersey. I'm not a fan of the place. It was up in the sticks. I mean, it was like, oh my God, what a pain in the ass to get there. But the art studio was kind of cool. At first, like it felt like Mr. Rogers' Field Trip or something, and then like kind of gone bad.
I mean, that's insane at such an early age, just working for Todd McFarlane. What did that feel like? How surreal was that to you at the time?
It was pretty crazy because like Todd was one of my comic book heroes growing up. Um, when Capullo got on the book though, like I gravitated towards him because he had more structure to his work. Todd was really great with his angles and stuff like that, and he wasn't afraid to explore different things. But I like Capullo because he had a lot more structure, and his influences I ended up finding out were stuff that I ended up like loving. John Buscema, Frank Frazetta, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, but yeah, it was something else. And then to see the two different faces of Todd was really interesting because everyone they just see the convention Todd. It's very different from work Todd.
What is work Todd like?
Oh, I'd say he's a bit more dickish.
Is he actually? How so?
Yeah, no, he's because all right, from he worked his ass off to get to the position that he did when he was with Marvel. And then the second that they got a chance, like they were ready to burn it all down and do their own thing. So Todd's not afraid to burn bridges. But the thing that's really stupid, it doesn't really work well in business. The thing is, if he didn't have the name he did, he wouldn't have taken off like he did. That's what I saw working there because he let like the brothers who were running that place kind of run it to the ground. Todd didn't like going there because he's stationed in Arizona, and we used to talk to him like very crude versions of I guess like a Zoom type of chat, which was funny because like they had the cameras set up and they would never work properly. Sometimes they would just go on and they were still setting up, and it was weird. I don't know. Sometimes it felt like he was a genius. Other times it felt like he was just an idiot savant. Um, we used to see him sitting on the floor like a little kid playing with his toys.
Yeah, that sounds like a Todd McFarlane thing to do.
Yeah, but it's crazy because it's like it's half acting like a child and half of the time was yeah, fuck this, fuck that, blah blah blah. Like the way he talks. It was
Yeah.
interesting, but like if he wanted to, he could have controlled that art studio a lot sooner and a lot better because there's some shitty things that went on in there and um yeah, just stuff that maybe I shouldn't talk about. But in the end, to see how he kind of is with people, it's very bizarre. He ended up becoming a little bit nicer, I think, as Stanley was kind of putting him more under his wing because they became better friends near the end of Stan's life, and he was teaching him kind of like how to um, I guess how to interact with fans a lot better because he was pretty cool. I ran into Todd a couple more times after I worked for him, and he was very nice. He remembered me too, and he was asking questions about family and stuff, which I wouldn't have really pegged them for because at the time we were working with him, he was going through other legal battles and stuff too. Again, because you can't just do whatever you want when it comes to the business world like that. You need to have some kind of diplomacy and things and go about things in I guess in a more legal manner.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but so yeah, after all that McFarlane stuff, I ended up going freelance. My brother and we left because it was around the time of 9/11 as well, and I didn't want to be in that area anymore because there's stuff that they didn't show on the news. There are other things that happened that it became a very volatile place. Weeks after, like in the New York area anyway, people were a lot more, I'd say, loving towards one another, if that's the right word. Like people actually seem to care about one another. And if you remember, like the Spider-Man movie also came out around that time. People were looking for a new hero or a hero that people recognize. So I think that's why it's one of the big things that made the superhero movies really take off because it made like $1 billion. It's the first time that's ever happened. And from there, like comics were more in demand. So like even the work that we were doing at the time, design work for Diamond Select, for Toy Biz, Randy Bowen. From there, I just kind of kept bleeding into other stuff. And I wanted to get back into comics because that's the primary job I was looking for. I wasn't looking to just toy design. I always wanted to be a comic book artist. I was supposed to work for Top Cow, but it was between choosing Top Cow and McFarlane. McFarlane was paying. Top Cow it was free internship. And yeah, to make your own way over there, coming right out of high school, I didn't have the funds for an apartment, a car, all that stuff. Never been to California before. So I said, all right, East Coast, we got family nearby, we could commute, we could do that kind of stuff. And they were paying. McFarlane was paying. But yeah, sorry, I'm jumping around a bit.
No, it's
But
all good. It's all good. This is good stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, I started doing like book covers for different companies, then like actual like novels and young adult novels, stuff like that. And then I started getting more into doing storyboards for different like commercial type stuff, and a film that was almost out there that would have been amazing, like Angelina Jolie at her prime. Bunch of other big actors were involved, but it came so close, and then it just kind of fell apart. I don't know if funding or what happened, but that would have been amazing, and that would have been like a huge break into the film industry. But I ended up going back into comics, and I started doing some stuff for Devil's Due, Image Comics, the hack and slash covers, um, things like that. But yeah, I just kind of kept doing odd jobs all over the place, like if there were pinups, covers, whatever. Um, and then yeah, I mean, there's a couple of years where I was doing a lot of different things. Um, Stuff I still can't talk about from non-disclosure agreements that I signed. But yeah, stuff from video games to comics to again toys, kind of all around that spectrum. And then I found out about doing more independent stuff. I started doing the convention circuit. I decided to start making my own comics. And yeah, the rest is kind of history. Although I did have run-ins with like Marvel. Like I was supposed to work on a Spider-Man title, got screwed out of that job. People have heard that story as well. That had to do with Joe Quesada. That guy screwed me out of the Spider-Man gig 2 weeks before I was supposed to go in and sign the contract. That was infuriating, and I was just doing pencils at the time. So after that, I was like, just fuck this. I'm gonna learn how to computer color as well. I'm gonna up my game all the way. If I can make my own comics from scratch, do it all, that's what I'm gonna do. And I just kept doing that pretty much until I just said, fuck it, I'm gonna make my own stuff. Why should I be working for those companies that they just keep dicking people around? I saw a lot of the wokeism that was happening. Um, yeah, a lot of dirty people in that business. And through the convention scene, I learned a whole lot more. Holy crap. Lots of snakes, um, lots of people doing things they shouldn't be doing. And I was kind of sick of it all. And then I led my way into kind of the Comicsgate circle and more, like I said, more independent stuff. That's what I started as. That's what I'm going to continue to do, you know, making my
Good
own
on
books
you
is,
for actually going your own way. Most people are too afraid to do that,
yeah,
you know?
sometimes you just got to pull the trigger on it, you know? Um, because like I said, this industry is very strange, and I still see it. Even in some of the circles that we're in now, there's still a lot of that shit kind of going around. That's why I always preach it whenever I do my streams, wherever I'm at. Be kind to one another. But kick ass while you create. That's kind of my tagline, because that's what it should be about. Get the good product out there. Be nice with people. At the conventions, I used to have long lines at these shows, and I would have some of the quote unquote names going like, "Oh, what are you working on?" Well, I'm like, I'm working on this through the woods, or and they're like, "Oh, but I mean, like, you didn't do any work for the mainstream yet." I'm like, "Well, I kind of did in lots of other different areas, but a comic book, no." Um, but well, how do you have a line like that? I said, because I'm being genuine with people. We're having proper conversations. If they're talking about the movies that they're watching, or the TV shows, and the figures when they come up to me, and I signed a number of figures over the years as well. We have an open, normal conversation, because I think you need to be respectful towards people. There's no reason to be a dick, and that's what they do. Like they'll literally try to do the car salesman thing, and the second they walk away, they'll insult them. I've almost had a physical fight with a couple of people that I'm like, what the fuck did you just say? You see that guy? Blah blah. I'm like, that's your customer. They just bought something from you, and you're treating them like shit. And I saw it a little bit at McFarlane as well. That's why I'm like, you can't do that. It's
Egos are too high, too high.
way too high.
It's crazy. I mean, even now that I'm dabbling a little bit into my own indie comics and building my own media company, I've noticed that a lot. Like people are
Yeah.
crazy egotistical. It's
Oh,
insane.
straight up.
Ah,
It's ridiculous. Dude, I'm sorry. I know I went like a mile a minute just now.
No, 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 it's fair. It's totally fair. That's cool though that you actually were able to, sell to people at conventions and stuff. What conventions do you recommend going to for new creators?
Well, I'd say anything that's kind of do the local area first. Try to build up a little bit of like a fan base around the area, and then you could start branching out to bigger venues. I'm in Florida right now, and I was doing a lot of those shows for a number of years. And as they were getting bigger, I kind of knew the promoter as well, the guy who owned the comic book shop. So he invited me to a couple of them. I'm like, yeah, these are all right. In the beginning, I didn't do all of them. I did a handful here or there, and then I started doing more and more, and it was all kind of growing together. So like the local artist, his show, it turned into like the Florida SuperCon, which is now I think they sold it over to Reed Pop. Those are the same guys who do the New York Comic Cons and all those. But again, New York's my hometown, so I went to the New York Comic Con for a number of years. That was pretty good, but I stopped after they closed down one of the big areas. It was like the Artist Alley was separate from the main floor room in New York. I don't know if you've ever been to the
No, I
Javits
never
Center.
have. No.
Yeah, they tore down a whole section, which was beautiful. It was the best Artist Alley area that I've ever been to at any convention. It was lit up. There were bathrooms like every 20 feet or something. So there weren't Disney lines to these things. In the main showroom, that's you literally have to wait like on an hour line to go take a piss. And it's like, well, how are you gonna get back to your table if you're on the main floor? And you need a crew of people. You can't just be by yourself. But Artist Alley there was amazing. But they tore it down. They were doing renovations. I did the main floor, I think twice. And I like broke even. Like the sales numbers were so much lower than if you were in Artist Alley. So I'm like, it's not really worth it. It's a fucking hassle. It's a headache. But at the same time, I was working on my own stuff. So, getting into this kind of circle was, I think, more beneficial. But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, it's kind of crazy. C2E2 is pretty good in Chicago. I've been to those a couple times. Oh, that's where I ran into Stan Lee again. And he bought some of my original artwork, which was amazing.
Oh, wow.
It was like I think 2 years before he passed. I think it was 2 years. I get my time frames a little bit mixed up. Like I said, I did so many shows, it all kind of blends together.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was definitely C3E2. And yeah, it was great. It was a bit of a vindication as well, since I was supposed to work on the Spider-Man title, and again, having met Stan, years later, and he was still blown away by my work that he had to own some of it. That was like the hugest compliment you could get.
Yeah, no,
Like I said,
100%. That's crazy. No better person to really get it from, to be honest.
right? And yeah, like I said, I banked on myself too with these projects because I know what I'm worth. I made a whole lot of money for Todd, millions for Todd with the toy designs that I've done for him. And I guess my vision on things as well, because I brought a lot of things to him and created a lot of stuff that yeah, it proved that they could sell. So I'm like, yeah, I'll bank on myself.
And what's your favorite body of work that you've made so far?
I'd have to say this is the current stuff I'm doing right now. Being able to create my own characters, my own kind of universe is really awesome. Through the Woods, that was one that I co-created with my brother Frank. We kind of came up with the name of characters and some backstory, but we never really put it together. I was doing some other jobs, and in the middle of it, like my free time, I'm like, I wanted to kind of dust some stuff off. I'm like, let's dive into it, because we have like a pantheon of characters and stories. So I said, what would be good? I think Through the Woods. We'll go simple at first. How did comic books start? They were like pulp stuff. They weren't superheroes in the beginning. It was kind of like your ghost stories, your monsters, that type of thing. So we decided, all right, how about the ghost story? And I sat down, I wrote out the outline for issue 1. And it was leaning more towards a gore fest rather than just ghost. But my brother was blown away by it. He's like, holy shit, this is really good. I said, you want to do a draft? Go for it. And he did. And he goes, there's just something that I wanted to do, and I wanted to hear you out on it. He goes, what if we get rid of this character and we go more towards Ghost rather than just the gore? And I was open to it. I had no problem with it. And I liked the story that he came up with too. Again, it was almost the same exact story that I had, except he changed a couple things. Since we omitted a character who was going to get a very untimely end at the kind of the cliffhanger of the book, and instead it was more of like the reveal of our main character after a century of being dead, that he appeared. And it's a powerful shot. It's on the campaign as well, him kind of opening up the door, lightning behind him, and he's like reaching out for his axe. It's in her hands, the female character's hands. But from there, yeah, we went into issue 2. We put some kind of sexy shots in there as well, since the story revolves around this investigative reporter who's a female who inherits this home in upstate New York. And as she's doing her research and stuff, she's at home. So I said, let's make it, almost like a throwback to like Friday the 13th movie or something. Hot girls and their underwear or little tops, comfortable laying out on the bed. But as we're doing that, like she's doing the research, so you get the exposition of the story, the key elements that you need in there. But there's some eye candy as well, and there's a lot of cool things that happen in issue 2, and then issue 3 is the big closeout. And yeah, the big, you get the reveal of the villain in the previous issue as well. I mean, it was great for what we had on it. And again, it was my first campaign for the crowdfunding. And that's why after people started getting to know me more and my other books were doing better, they were asking about Through the Woods. So I did the collected edition, and we put the whole story in there, all 3 issues, 100 pages. And in the middle of the campaign, we kind of even sprung up the idea of doing a hardcover. It came up in a chat somewhere. And I said, well, you know what? Let me crunch some numbers. And the next time I streamed, I went, all right, if we hit this number, I think we could do a hardcover. And people got us there right away. And that was fantastic. I got attacked by the left as well, because that's what they do. I believe it was some of Quesada's goons he sent our way.
Goons, like mobsters.
Oh, it is ridiculous. It's ridiculous how stupid comic books really are, the behind the scenes stuff.
Dude, I mean, I've noticed there's a lot of wars going on here. What did they attack you for? Was it the women? Was it like?
Well, yeah, they didn't like the sexiness. I started popping up on like the EVS channel at the time as well. And anyone who's connected to him right away, they're going to put a label on you and try to attack you for, because they don't like seeing people make money. That's the thing, is that's what we're fighting against, is the mainstream who wants to control the narrative all the way. So if you see independent creators making money, they want it to step in and stop that from happening. So it's very dirty. It's very controlling how they operate. And it's like, fuck you. I'm an independent creator. What do you care?
Exactly.
Mind your business. Why don't you get your writers and your artists to stop fighting with people on Twitter and actually care about the characters and write proper stories? But they didn't want to. They want to have an agenda. And the agenda is what ruins all this stuff.
I agree wholeheartedly. I think people need to relax. Just let people do their thing,
For sure, man.
Jeez, that's the goal of my company, honestly, is to help creators thrive. No egos in this company, all right? No matter how large it grows, I'm going to make sure there's no egos. If you get an ego in there, you're out. And also, I want creators to be able to stick true to their artistic vision. So I feel like that's super important to getting good stories.
It sounds like you're going to be on the right path, brother.
Oh yeah. That's the goal. I mean,
that's the way to do it.
It is. I mean, I feel like it's the only way, because we're kind of losing that, because, obviously you have Warner Brothers and you have Disney, and they're doing that woke stuff, Everyone knows what they're doing, so I don't even have to say it, but
yeah, I mean, because no one really wants to get political, but all that shit's attached. It's all connected. Hollywood is run by all that nonsense. We've seen it. That's why cancel culture exists. It's because they don't want us to have a voice. They don't want to see or hear our narrative. It's all about total control, and they're doing it in any which way they could. They know if they go through the entertainment field, that they're going to start like their brainwashing, so to speak. That's why the cartoons, they're trying to get kids younger to accept all this really strange behavior that, years ago we'd be like, what? No way, that wouldn't even get off the ground, because it's creepy, or it's stuff that's like grooming kids, and it's bizarre shit that they're doing. Why don't we all step away from that nonsense? Why don't we expose that nonsense, and then give them a proper replacement? This is what we're working on, is old school storytelling again. Thinking about the characters, thinking about the world you created. World building is essential to what we're doing. Almost all my books kind of connect in some way or another. I'm creating a universe of characters that you're going to start to see it. Easter eggs in other books, or mentions of other characters, or who's related to somebody in another book. Like, I think that stuff is fun, and it feels more tangible, more real. I'm currently working on Shadow of the Kraken. It's a pirate story, but it's going to be connected to other books as well. And like, well, how are you going to do that, Vinny? You're in different genres. I'm like, stay on board. You'll eventually see where I'm headed, and the kind of surprises, because it's a lot of fun stuff. No, people don't have to get it all to understand what's going on, because they're still their own contained stories. But if the people who buy it all, they could start to see a connecting line with some of this stuff. It's like our world history. We've had Greek, Roman, Egyptian, and look at our modern world. They're two totally different things, but yet we know that past, or good chunks of it. But it's kind of in a similar vein. I want to make things, again, like I said, tangible, real.
Yeah, I feel like I'm pretty much doing a similar thing with my book, Grandpa, except I'm starting with this book, and then other books around the universe will connect. But yeah, you don't have to do exactly like the same genre for every single book. I think that just makes it get formulaic and stale after a while. You know what I mean? Whereas if you have all these individual stories, it's cool to see the tiny little callbacks. Like, I don't know if you've played Watch Dogs or Assassin's Creed or anything, but
yeah, I'm a huge Assassin's Creed fan.
Yeah. So
love that stuff.
Yeah, so in AC4 and in, I think it was AC Origins, they showed Aiden Pierce from Watch Dogs, like he killed the Abstergo agent. And in Watch Dogs 1, you kill the Abstergo agent in a mission. And then recently in Watch Dogs Legion, they just had an Assassin's Creed crossover. So I'm like, yeah, they're in the same universe. That's like a cool thing, but you wouldn't expect it. Yeah, it's unique. I like that.
Yeah, man. And even like when they had the throwbacks to the other characters, what was it in Assassin's Creed? Was it 3? You find out that you play as his father, and then you play as the son. Then you end up playing as the grandfather in 4, and you find out he's a fucking pirate. Like, how cool is that?
Yeah, it's so awesome. For Shadow of the Kraken, did you take a little inspiration from AC4?
Yeah, a bit. I know they took their own liberties too with a lot of like the characters and kind of those characters in history, because I have some of them that are going to be in this book, because it is set in the Caribbean, and I kind of wanted to show how that started, and they kind of have their own take on what they did, and there's certain characters that live longer than they were supposed to, and in the game and things like that, and they play with their narrative. But in mine, I want to kind of keep a little more true to the time period, and who's alive, who's dead, but at the same time, like, I'm going to have a supernatural twist in my book as well, so it's not going to be just a straight up history lesson or anything like that. There's action, there's adventure, there's hot women, everything you need out of something like that. Black Sails is another inspiration. It's one of the few things I think that they did well when it came to like a pirate story. That was the TV series on Starz, which was a prequel to Treasure Island, which a lot of people didn't know. I didn't know when I was watching it. I was like, wait a minute. John Silver, Billy, is that Billy Bones? And they end up finding out, and like, oh shit. And they did their own thing with it, but it was really cool. And then like towards the end of the series, you find out how they connected it all, and the treasure from Treasure Island and how they got it, and all that stuff was really awesome. But again, like you said, it's those surprises, those throwbacks and connections to other things. I think it's really cool to play with that. And my book's going to have another kind of detour in it as the series progresses, because I'm going to go further back and even show how piracy kind of started. It's something that I haven't really seen too much in these books, or ever really. And like the very first pirates are going to be kind of a surprise to people as well. It's not what a lot of people think. But I did a ton of research on all that. So yeah, and there's connections to this unique map that's in this book that's carved into a skull. It's like, well, it's a bunch of different maps that are actually carved into it, but it's coded as well. So you'll find out kind of who's responsible for all that, who the skull belongs to, why it's there, all that great stuff. Like it's, it's one of those pieces of the puzzle of this story.
This story sounds awesome, man. I think I might have to get me one of those,
Cool, man. Yeah.
I think I will.
I'm working very hard on this thing, man. I'm trying to get it done for the end of the year, kind of bleeding into early 2022. I've been either early or right on time with all my previous projects. So this one's still on track to hit around that ballpark as well. Like, I don't want people waiting years.
Yeah.
And for that fact too, like, I don't even want to launch my next campaign. Well, first, this is going to be done and fulfilled before I even go near my next campaign. But it's going to be the sequel to City of Venus. People have been asking for that forever. So I'm going to do the sequel on that. But I think I'm going to get it close to, I think, 90% finished before I launch. Because I don't want people to be like, I gave you money and, I'm waiting all this time. I hate that shit. I'm a fan as well. I backed a ton of books. I want to, be sure that I'm going to get my product. And I think people are kind of the same way. Like, yeah, I don't know.
People are impatient. They don't like waiting, which is fair because they paid for it. So they should really
There's some
to.
people. Well, some people are fine with waiting, and they've even backed multiple campaigns from people who haven't even fulfilled yet, or didn't fulfill their previous campaigns. So I don't know if it's just the star power thing of it or what it is, but me personally, I only think about what I'm working on and how I can make my fans happy. So for me personally, I'm not putting judgment on anyone else when it comes to this stuff. I want my product as close to finished before I launch, because I'm coming at it from a fan's perspective. And it's just the way I rather do business is that way.
Yeah. And who would you say inspired you the most as an artist? Would you say it's Capullo, like you talked about before? Or
maybe John Buscema, Capullo, and Frazetta. Those are they're up there. They're in my top 5 for sure. I've had influence from European artists. Enrico Marini was one of my favorites. That dude, he worked on the Batman book. It's past, a year ago or something. The Dark Prince Charming. It was a 2-part book where he's the #1 artist in Europe. So DC, they were well aware of that, so they decided to try to get him over. And he goes, "I'll do it if you let me have my own kind of Gotham City, my own. I don't want influence from anyone else, and I don't want to be tied to anything else." So they let him do that, and he created a really amazing Gotham City and a pretty damn cool story. So I recommend that for people if you aren't familiar with him. Check it out. He's got a book called Raptors, The Scorpion, The Eagles of Rome. Those books are all amazing. He has a slight kind of anime style with a Western kind of approach as well. He's somewhere in between there. But his work is absolutely amazing. If you're not familiar with it, I suggest looking him up. I showcase him a couple of times on my streams as well.
I definitely will, man. I mean, sounds cool. I like the names that he had for each of those books. Those are interesting.
Yeah, those are pretty cool. Raptors was a vampire story with a brother and sister, kind of like the less their kind sort of deal. Because other vampires, they started to over time evolve. And they were trying to be put more into society, and almost like they were working from the shadows, and the rich people who were in control type of deal. And you find out well, they're this vampiric nature. And it makes sense, because if you look in the world and political wise and everything, it feels like everyone's a parasite of some kind. And the two of them are more like purebreds who are they kind of hunt the political people and take them out. And their mark is they put like a pin inside of the like there's a cyst that develops on these other vampires
Oh,
that are yeah, and they kind of like they pop it with like that pin. Like after they kill them, like they put the pin through them, and on the head of the pin is their logo. It's like their family crest, this dragon, like a dragon head. And it's like, and they always paint all over the walls in the blood. Your kingdom is doomed. Like we're coming for all of you, you know. And there's a detective who's trying to figure out these murders and who it is and what it is, and she ends up getting pulled into this world, this vampire world, not believing that it's real. You know, they did a cool job with it. I forgot the writer's name, but he's the co-creator and the artist for it.
yeah. I mean, that sounds very enticing. I ain't gonna lie. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
You know how
it's
to,
good shit.
Yeah, you know how to explain it well, man.
Thanks.
So we were talking about games earlier. What would you say is your favorite game of all time?
Shit, the whole time. Well, I am, like I said, I am a huge fan of the Assassin's Creed games. I like kind of beat 'em up games as well. Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, stuff like that. The Spider-Man game was fantastic. That
Ooh.
PS4 one.
Oh yeah, that was good.
Dude, that was epic. Ghost of Tsushima. That thing was amazing. I love samurai stories as well. Anything that
Yes.
has to do with history. If you have a lot of like backstory and lore in your worlds, whether it's fiction or based in reality, I'm on board with that kind of stuff. Like, you know, give me that richness.
Yeah,
Resident
no.
Evil. What am I
Yes.
saying? Resident Evil 2. Some of my favorite titles.
What's your favorite Resident Evil?
I think it's the remake of the second game.
Yeah, that one was great. That was amazing.
I played them from the beginning. So like shit, I was a teenager when I think the first one came out. Yeah, a friend of mine, he stole it from Blockbuster when he was working there. And he let me borrow it for a while. And then when they called him, he's like, I need the game back. I'm like, all right, I cleared it anyway.
Oh,
No, yeah. So like when the remake came out, that Chris Redfield at the time, it looked like they scanned me. And I went to GameStop and I even like the lady working was like, "Whoa, let me guess, is that you?" I'm like, yeah, sure." And like I got the cutout.
oh my lord.
It didn't last over the years though. I think it was just the head I ended up keeping because there was like water damage that ended up happening to it during one of the moves. But
Oh.
yeah, when they started doing those remake games, I was absolutely blown away. Those were killer. But in the third game, the voice actress for Jill Valentine, I'm actually kind of friends with. So I'm a little bit biased to with that. A lot of people tried to shit on it. Go, it was woke. I said, what was woke about it? Well, she didn't have her skirt. Well, yes, she did. If you pre-ordered the game or if you waited a little bit, you could download the original outfit.
Just
What's the
pre-order
problem?
it, guys. No,
Right.
I mean, the only complaint I would have with that one, like I enjoyed that game a lot. I would just say that it was the game. Okay, people don't understand. I played these games when I was a kid the whole time. I'm 21, so I was like a baby when I was playing them, right? But
Right.
yeah, but like I replayed 3 again right before I played the remake of 3, and I did the same thing with 2. And 3 was already a short game, but they cut out more from it, so it just made it really quick. And I think people got mad because of that. And I'm like, all right, that's fair, I guess. But
Yeah.
other than that, I'd say it was good though. Oh, and I guess I mean not Mr. X, Nemesis could have they could add more chase sequences, but other than that, it was good.
I agree. See, Nemesis, I loved the original design way better than what they did. I didn't like the hefty bag all over his body look. That was stupid, and I didn't like how they redesigned his head. Go with the original model because the original model was fantastic. That was horrifying. Yeah, I didn't like it was weird. That weird thing with his nose, and he was still menacing. And yeah, you shit your pants when you encounter him in the game. But I think the original one was more terrifying. And I love like Type 2 in the original game when I think it was after the trolley wreck. and he had like his whole chest and everything was exposed, and he had all the tendrils kind of hanging off. I think that was amazing, and that was a missed opportunity not to have that in this game. That pissed me off the most. I didn't care about the giant worm. It's fine that they cut that out of the game.
Yeah.
I even at the time I thought it was stupid. Like, why is there a worm in this?
No, I
But-
agree 100%. Yeah.
But yeah, I think they did a lot of cool stuff. And the hospital sequence, I think, was amazing.
That was
whole-
really good actually.
Yeah, that whole shootout that you got to do, and Jill's in the back room.
Yeah.
Trying to get the serum to kick in or whatever.
I'm just hyped for the RE4 remake, man. That could be spicy. They could
That
make
surprised
that really
me.
good.
That surprised me a lot. I heard rumors somewhere else. I'm like, they're really doing that? Because the game
Mhm.
was already over the shoulder. It was like the first time that they changed everything up a bit.
Yeah.
More action based.
Yeah.
Are they still going with that, or is it going to be?
I think they are. Yeah. They definitely are. Like, there's too many leaks to disprove it. Really, like,
Good.
there's so many leaks about it that it definitely is coming out. Which
Yeah.
a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's perfect. It's flawless." I'm like, bro. Like, that's personally, I would say that's the Resident Evil game I've played the most. That's literally like my childhood game, no joke. That's the first Resident Evil game I ever played was Resident Evil 4, and then
Yeah.
I played 2, and then I was all out of order, but but I've played them all. But
Yeah.
RE4, I've played that game so many times, and I've replayed it recently again once I heard about the remake coming out, and I was like, no, this game could be improved like a lot, and they could make it scary if they wanted to. Like, they could make that
Yeah.
game terrifying very easily.
Yeah, I agree, man. There were some really cool moments, but they need to tone down, I think, some of the monk stuff in the castle. Some of that felt too a little, repetitive, and I hated that shit with the president's daughter Ashley, that you had to anytime she was in trouble and screaming, like you had to, that shit felt like a chore. I'm like, can we just get
Yes.
back to just
Yeah.
us killing the things we got to kill? But yeah, no, that game was awesome. I liked it a lot. The newer ones, I am not a fan of. I don't like that you just see a hand on screen. That
You don't
shit,
like the first person?
no. It
I
makes me.
actually like Seven and Village, actually. And the reason why is because although I feel like they're not Resident Evil, really, I still think they're good games because Resident Evil 7 is terrifying. That's a terrifying game.
Yeah.
And Village is that game's a lot like RE4, actually. That's like, I can already tell they're gonna take assets from Village and like rework it for RE4. You could see that like 100%.
Yeah, which I think is fine too. If you have the base for it,
Yeah.
just give us more with all that. Yeah, I know there are certain boards with the werewolves. From what I've seen, I've seen a lot of footage of the game because I am curious about kind of the story and what they were doing, because I know like 7, that was not a Resident Evil story at all.
No.
This shit with what did they do, like mold spores or whatever the hell the
Yeah.
virus thing was, and that character too made no sense. And then I saw like in the game, like he gets his hand chopped off and he like reattaches it and all this weird stuff I'm like, what the hell are they doing? Then I found out the end of the game, but to me, it's still, like you said, it's not Resident Evil. Resident Evil to me ended on 6, and a lot of people shit all over 6. I enjoyed it. I thought there was a lot of good things about it. Design wise and some of the stuff that they did, I wasn't a fan of, like the Chris Redfield parts. I didn't like the bug monsters that they were doing.
I think it was I think that one was a little too action paced for Resident Evil, but it is fun on co-op though. That is a fun co-op
Oh
game.
yeah, hell yeah. I played with a couple of friends on co-op. We had a ball with that. Well, the Leon part on the campus I thought was perfect. I wanted more of that throughout the game, and we got a little bit more near the end when they released the virus in, was it Hong Kong or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. Give me more zombie-based stuff, and then like a tyrant. I'm fine. Don't start making like people heft bugs from the waist down and whatever the hell they were doing with some of that shit. Like that was stupid.
And
story,
who's your favorite Resident Evil character?
It might have to be Chris, either Chris or Jill. I really
Interesting.
like them. Leon is awesome. I'm not going to shit on any of those characters because I did love all the ones in the game, but up until a point, like I said, I didn't like that they made Chris like a full-blown alcoholic and stuff in 6, and some of those directions they went in pissed me off. But Jill, like I wanted to see more of her after what happened with her and Wesker, and like they didn't really clarify too much of that stuff, and we didn't see her in 6, so like I want to see a better job done with her storyline and all that.
Yeah, definitely. And before we wrap this up, we like to end off with a very good question. And it is the secret sauce to creator success. What is your secret sauce?
Well, I don't know if I made that kind of success yet.
No, I'd say you've made success. I'd say it doesn't have to be crazy, but you have made success though, because you're doing your own thing and
Thanks, man.
it's taken off. So
I'd say quality. I don't skip on quality. I'll put the work in all the time. I think more people need to get their basic foundations down. Your perspective, your anatomy, those 2 things alone are key. And then composition, and you have other story elements that come to play. But know your base, because without your foundation, you're going to have a lopsided house, lopsided building. Make sure your foundation's there. Then I think give people quality. It doesn't have to be everything. It doesn't have to be super detailed, but make sure whatever you're putting out for them, everything's there that you want, that your storytelling is going to be clear. And yeah, man, don't skip on the details. Make sure you're again, we're storytellers. Visual, it's a visual medium, so make sure whatever you're doing, you got everything down packed. And I know a lot of people are very new into doing this as well. They see success from other people and they want to do it themselves, and that's cool as well. But do extra research. I'm self-taught. Everything I've done, no one's held my hand on anything. I busted my ass to make sure I was going to learn what I need to learn, and I'm still learning. That's why on my YouTube channel as well, Vinnie Art, I have those tutorials that I put out for people. I got like 17 or 18 of them, plus a couple of live streams where breaking down and teaching people either anatomy, composition, you name it, we kind of covered. I want to do more of them. I just haven't had time yet. Probably after this book is done, I might jump in and do a few more for people. But yeah, I think that's it.
no, those are great, man. Yeah, don't skip out on the details, people. You need it. You need that foundation, whether it's in any, art form, I would say. Like writing, super important with that.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people like to be like, oh, I don't need a foundation. I'm too good for that. So I just go in blind. I'm like, all right, it's probably not going to be good, but all right, that's fine. Whatever you want to do. I mean, but you need to practice on these things and you need to grow yourself. And Vinny knows all about that. So,
Thanks,
so
man.
yeah, no, it was great having you on the show, man. Thanks so much for coming on.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, man. And anytime you want to come on my show as well, let me know.
I'll
You're always
probably be
invited.
doing that real soon. So when you have it on Fridays, right?
Fridays we do about an hour, around the same time that we did today. And Sunday is my longer stream. That could be anywhere from an hour to 3. We've even gone 4 or 5 at one point.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Well, we got in depth, like you said, story wise. We dissected that He-Man cartoon.
Oh.
And we didn't just go at it just for the sake of going at it. It was 3 or 4 artists and writers, and we kind of dissected why it was bad. And we went from the first episode straight through, and we gave all of our reasons, legitimate reasons, not just because of their design work or whatever it was. But yeah, and that went for about 4 or 5 hours.
That shows you how many flaws it had, guys.
Oh yeah, we ripped it to shreds.
That's insane. That's always fun to do, though.
Yeah, but logically.
Yeah, no, I hate when people don't make criticism constructive. I mean, it's funny sometimes, but overall, it's like it gets really annoying when people are like, "Well, this just sucks," and they don't give a good reason as to why. It's like, well, Can you actually
Right.
explain why it sucks?
Well, it's low hanging fruit, so it's too easy to grab. And you go, yeah, her hair is buzzed on one side. She's got the pants on. They took away femininity. She looks flat. And they try to make it look like a boy. But there's there's so many easy things to dissect with that stuff. But,
Yeah, yeah. No, 100%, especially with the show like the new He-Man. So
well, you could tell too that they didn't have the balls to continue it. That they had another animated series in its place that they're going to launch before. I don't even think they're going to be releasing the second part of it. It did so poorly. And that goes to show you what they were actually trying to do. They wanted to destroy He-Man so they could reboot him.
That's
Then
true.
we discussed that as well.
Listen, these conspiracies, they might be true. Think about it.
Well, this was very true.
Yeah.
We talked about it before they even dropped a trailer for the new one. One of
Wow.
my friends, he has some connections too in the writing guild, and he's like, yeah, he goes, I read what they did, and we also knew that Kevin Smith was brought in after the fact. He wasn't there from the beginning.
Okay.
They needed a face that could work, quote unquote, the nerdy community.
He's like, oh God, why did I agree to this?
Oh no, he knew why he agreed to it because he is a whore. For money, he'll do anything, and he's proved it over the years. Yeah.
Yeah, money make people do funny things.
Yeah, like push their own mother in front of a bus. Ooh, a nickel.
Yeah, exactly.
Animals.
Yeah, no, people are, man. One time, my friend, he's in the Coast Guard, right?
Mhm.
And he was talking with this guy, and this guy said he would sacrifice his entire family to Iraq for $1 million. I was like, it's like,
Oh shit!
it's like, all right, man, Jesus.
Is his name Joe Biden?
Oh, perhaps. No, but that's crazy though. I was like, wow, people will really do anything for money. It's insane.
That is demented.
Ain't it?
Yeah. I heard some things. I heard some things as well. I can't say anything, but I'll tell you later.
Okay, cool. Any last things you want to say to the chat before you go? Any things you want to advertise, whatever? Anything you want to plug in?
Yeah, well, I still do have those campaigns are live and active. City of Venus, along with the 2 art books. You can still get those. The art books are 52 pages each. And yeah, all 3 of those books, you can find them on the City of Venus campaign. Then I also have the hardcover Ghost Story Through the Woods. That's still available. Those books all ship immediately. And shout out to the Kraken. I am still working on it. It's still live, so you guys can support it. The more money that we get, the more cool stuff we can unlock for you guys. And that's going to be a 50-page story. So yeah, it's a lot of great stuff. So yeah, the support is much appreciated. And yeah, man, I just want to thank everyone who's watching, and I want to thank you, buddy. This was fun.
No problem, man. Thank you so much for joining. And all you good people, check out his stuff. I already told you in the beginning, got to do it. Come on, this is good stuff here. So I'll see you guys in the next one.